It's out, guys, everything about the new Galactic Patrol saga, the long-awaited Morrow saga. We have bombshell revelations. But don't worry, the spoiler level here is almost zero, so stick with me and let's get into the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and hit the bell notification. The Morrow saga in Dragon Ball Super marks the beginning of a darker and more strategic phase of the story, bringing an antagonist very different from recent enemies. Instead of relying solely on brute force, the plot revolves around an ancient threat, tied to forgotten events of the universe that resurfaces and puts the balance between entire planets at risk. This new villain, Moro, is introduced as a mysterious figure with unusual abilities that challenge the traditional rules of the battles seen until then. His existence is connected to a space organization that tries to contain the chaos, which expands the scope of the story beyond Earth and introduces a more police-like and investigative science fiction atmosphere. The Galactic Patrol, as we knew it from way back through Jocko. The Galactic Patrol in Dragon Ball Super is an interplanetary police force responsible for maintaining order in the universe, functioning as a cosmic security agency that deals with criminals on a planetary scale. Unlike the Z-Warriors, who act more as occasional defenders of Earth, the Patrol operates institutionally, with hierarchy, advanced technology, and arrest protocols. They monitor suspicious activities in various star systems, make captures, and maintain high-security prisons to contain threats that would be impossible to handle in a common context. The existence of the Patrol predates the Morrow saga by far. In the Morrow arc, they're already an ancient and established organization, with historical records dating back to past eras of the universe. The very fact that they have dealt with extremely ancient threats indicates that the Patrol has been operating for thousands, possibly millions of years within the Dragon Ball chronology. Even before the Morrow saga, the organization had already been introduced in the spin-off manga Jocko the Galactic Patrolman, created by Akira Toriyama. This manga functions as a kind of prologue and expansion of the universe, showing the daily life of a patrol agent and how the organization operates, its technology, rules, and relations with planets like Earth. It has a lighter and more comedic tone, but establishes several foundations of how the Galactic Patrol operates that are later reused in Dragon Ball Super, especially in the Morrow saga. Furthermore, the work serves as a kind of chronological prologue, expanding the universe and connecting events that precede the main story. Let's set those explanations aside and continue with the Morrow saga. When the crisis begins to spread thin, Goku and Vegeta are summoned to deal with a situation that cannot be resolved with powerful transformations alone. The saga emphasizes preparation, strategy, and personal evolution, showing the protagonists seeking new ways to surpass their own limits. At the same time, several secondary characters gain space, contributing to the feeling that the conflict affects the entire universe and not just a small group of warriors. One of the most noticeable aspects of this phase is the exploration of concepts like vital energy, cosmic balance, and the consequences of abusing power. The narrative alternates between intense confrontations and moments of development in which the heroes need to understand the nature of the threat before facing it directly. This creates a constant tension, since the enemy does not follow the pattern of villains who rely solely on direct combat, requiring more creative solutions and cooperation between different forces. We have some references about Dragon Ball sagas that were like this, or similar to it. This structure of alternating combat with investigation, preparation, and understanding of the threat has already appeared in several phases of Dragon Ball, although the Morrow saga takes it further. There are some arcs that function as clear precedents. The Androids and Cell saga in Dragon Ball Z is perhaps the strongest example. Before the decisive confrontations, there's a long period of uncertainty and information gathering. The heroes try to understand who the androids are, where they come from, and what Dr. Jiro's plan is. The arrival of future Trunks introduces an investigative and strategic element because the characters know a future threat exists but do not have all the details. This generates continuous tension with training, preparation, and tactical decisions before the main battles. When Cell enters the scene, the dynamic changes again. He's not just an enemy to be defeated, but a problem to be understood, with unknown abilities and an evolving plan. Another strong parallel is the Majin Buu saga. In that arc, the threat is not faced immediately because the characters need to understand the magical nature of the villain and Babidi's role. There are moments of investigation, containment, and attempts to anticipate the enemy's moves. The instability of Buu's form and behavior forces the heroes to constantly adapt, which creates a tension that does not depend solely on who is stronger. More recently, in Dragon Ball Super, the Zamasu and Goku Black saga also follows this pattern. The protagonists spend much of the arc trying to understand the enemy's origin, their motivations, and the mechanics behind their powers. Time travel, consultations with deities, and reconstruction of past events are part of the narrative progression. The conflict is not only physical, it's also conceptual, involving ideology and cosmology. Even the Frieza saga on Namek has elements of this. Before the final confrontation, there's a strategic race for the Dragon Balls, temporary alliances, and espionage.
The characters need to navigate a hostile scenario, understand local rules, and react to incomplete information, which sustains the tension beyond direct fights.
What differentiates the Morrow saga is the intensity with which this model is applied. Investigation and understanding of the enemy are not just intermediate steps, but a central part of the arc's structure. Even so, it clearly dialogues with these precedents, which already explored the idea that in Dragon Ball, winning is not always just a matter of raw power, but of strategic reading of the threat. Visually and in terms of scale, the saga amplifies the feeling of space adventure that has always been present in the franchise. New scenarios, planets, and technologies reinforce the idea that the universe is vast and full of unknown dangers. At the same time, the story rescues classic Dragon Ball elements such as intense training and the pursuit of self-improvement, combining nostalgia with unprecedented proposals. Without resorting to major revelations, the Morrow saga can be understood as an arc that deepens the cosmic side of Dragon Ball, balancing action, suspense, and character growth. It presents a singular antagonist, expands the world of the series, and places the heroes before a challenge that tests not only their strength, but also their understanding of power itself. The result is a dynamic narrative with a continuous adventure rhythm that prepares the ground for new paths within the universe of the series. Just as many paradigms will be broken throughout the series, will we get help from angels or gods? Who knows, maybe Whis will intervene again, just as he did in the Frieza saga. Within the internal logic of Dragon Ball Super, the possibility of help from angels or gods of destruction in large-scale crises always exists in theoretical terms, but it is limited by very strict rules. The cosmological system presented in the series establishes that Whis and the other angels function primarily as mentors and observers. They train, guide, and maintain institutional balance between the universes, but avoid direct interference in mortal conflicts. This restriction is not just ethical, it's structural, tied to the function they exercise within the divine hierarchy. In the case of gods of destruction, like Beerus, the situation is a little different. They have the authority to act when a threat compromises the cosmic balance on a broad scale. In theory, if a danger exceeds the capacity of mortals and threatens universal stability, divine intervention could be justified. However, the series tends to treat this as a last resort. There is an intentional narrative tension. The gods are present and powerful, but the practical responsibility of resolving crises falls almost always on mortals. Without going into specific events, the pattern that Dragon Ball Super establishes is one of indirect support. Angels and gods can offer information, training, or supervision, creating conditions for the heroes to act, rather than solving the problem themselves. This preserves the dramatic focus on the protagonists and maintains the thematic progression of the franchise, which revolves around personal overcoming. Therefore, in a scenario like the Moro saga or similar threats, it is plausible to imagine divine involvement at a consultative or strategic level. Direct intervention is possible within the rules of the universe, but always treated as an exception because it would shift the narrative axis of character growth toward a solution imposed by superior entities. But the best of the saga is about the apex of Vegeta's evolution. It is a defensible reading. Without going into specific events, the Moro saga is often seen as one of the highest points of Vegeta's development arc within Dragon Ball Super, not just in terms of power, but of identity and narrative function.
Historically, Vegeta's journey in Dragon Ball has always alternated between rivalry, pride, and the search for purpose. In previous arcs, his evolution tends to be closely tied to reaching new levels of strength. In the Moro saga, what many readers highlight is that his progression also incorporates a technical and philosophical dimension. There is a greater emphasis on method, discipline, and understanding of his own path as a warrior. This shifts the focus from a simple escalation of transformation to a conscious refinement of who he is and what he represents. Another point that makes this arc stand out is Vegeta's active role in the structure of the story. Instead of functioning only as a counterpoint to Goku, he takes on a parallel trajectory that carries its own weight within the narrative. This reinforces the sense of culmination of a process that has been building since Dragon Ball Z, the transition from antagonist to complete hero, with clear agency and responsibility. For this reason, even without spoilers, it can be said that the saga is remembered for consolidating the character's maturity. For many fans, it represents a peak not only of Vegeta's power evolution, but of his evolution as a dramatic figure within the universe of the series.